Hello, everyone. It's Anime Sickos, the only podcast. We're the first one and the last one. I am Joe, an Anime Sicko. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Tom.
I'm Tom, an Anime Sicko, and am lovely.
Yes. And this is a lovely Guesto episode. We have a guest that we've been trying to do for a while, and the reason it's been taking so long is we just suck. Like we're just bad. We have a Google Doc that was dated Halloween, was it?
Yes, October 31st, 2019, and we have just gotten this guesto on the show on today's date is June 25th, 2020.
So
ooh, that's a good 9 months. It's a full baby.
So, guesto, would you like to say your name and we can probe you with stuff?
Oh, beautiful! Yeah. Well, I'm Alex Borkowski, and I'm happy to be in the Guesto hot seat after a long period of anticipation.
Yes, I'm excited. Alex was the first person to tell me to my face that the podcast was fun and good, which is a big deal. Tom doesn't count, of course he said that shit to me, but a person who wasn't involved with it. So Alex gets VIP status forever. You're definitely going to heaven.
Yes. Oh man, I can't wait.
Also, I just want to, defend us a bit. We were planning on recording this Guesto mode episode on, the day that it became sort of undeniable that this virus thing was a threat. And we were like, should we all go to a studio? Should we go to a studio and talk? Is that a good idea? So that's why that recording date fell through. What isn't forgivable is that date was still 5 months after October 31st.
Yeah. Alex was also my first Death Stranding experience because I am in Chicago. We're in Chicago, and I'm one of the few homies with a car. So he was my first person I got to drop something off to. In this case, a microphone for this exact purpose, which, of course, I did 3 months ago. So...
And the thing about the microphone is I was opening it up to test everything, and I guess I didn't realize that you'd written a note for me. You'd left a note in there that just said Boso did the dub.
Yeah, Boso did the dub. The reason I wrote that is I just got done watching that sketch, and then I got in my car, and I was like, he watched the show, he'll enjoy this.
It's so funny. It's just it really brightened my day, truly, to get that.
So we are getting into this unofficial habit of doing a pandemic check-in with all guests, finding out how's it going. Have you developed any disgusting habits where you feel like less of a person? Are you gaming more? Are you gaming worse? So what's been new in your world, which I'm sure is just your apartment?
It was bad even while I still had a job. Now I'm living that sweet unemployment life, which we can get into a little bit. But so my job was entirely over the computer, and it was all just doing stuff in Word documents. It was all writing garbage that didn't matter and no one read. So a tactic that I developed was that I would just game while I was in between writing stuff, and then by the time pandemic really got into the swing of things, I was doing a minimum amount of work and a maximum amount of gaming.
So the ratio just changed as the world got worse.
I'd been working this job for a couple of years, and I was always sort of allowed to work from home when I felt like it. And I used to be a wizard. I would be playing a game, and I would get, something to write. I would fire that off in between a loading screen and then just already be ready to go.
Oh god, that's awesome.
Whereas by the time I was full time, by the time the pandemic was hitting, I was straight up just I will see this, I will log this work, and then I will get it done in the 15 minutes before I have to log out of my shift.
That's so powerful. That rules.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not good at switching gears on time theft. I'm actually kind of bad at it because I can either game and ignore everything, or I'll just sit and look at Outlook and just mentally wonder why I'm bored.
For me, the key to breaking through that, because I have the similar thing, Joe, where like I'm at my work laptop and I'm like, I could get up and start, reading manga, or turn on my personal computer and like watch anime or something, but like I gotta check in a bunch. I gotta make sure no one's yelling at me, so I might as well just keep sitting here. And then I realized I can just watch anime on my work laptop. Who's gonna know?
That's smart. I would think that they have like some big red light that flashes somewhere when it happens. But not that no one's there to look at it though. But that's why you're safe.
So Alex, it seems to me like you sort of already had this sort of Libra scales from fucking the Zodiac, where on one side you had your work and on the other side you had your gaming, and you were just spending months of your life optimizing the load on each side, taking a grain of sand for the work side and putting it on the gaming side, and then eventually there just were no more grains.
Yeah, it like truly, I think the point where it hit, this might have actually been like just before pandemic hit, but like one of my few gaming vices is the Bungie first person shooter Destiny 2, and there was one time where I was playing competitive PvP, which I hated doing because it's just like a huge fucking hassle, and everyone's like a huge dick online about it. But I had like figured out, I had done the math that I was like, I was well within being able to like complete this quest to get like a rocket launcher, and I was like, well, I'm already halfway here, and even though everything else I need to do for this is like a huge pain in the ass that like I actually don't want to do, I'm never going to have a better opportunity to do it. And then I just kind of went like, fuck. And I spent the whole day and got it done in one day. And I was like, I can't ever do this again. I've like passed a Rubicon. Like, just very bad. Like that was one where I was like, ooh, I think I leaned too far in one direction here.
That is a classic gamer move where you like spend hours doing a thing you hate because like, well, eventually I'll get a treat.
Yeah, literally exactly that. Like,
so Alex, are you still grinding in Destiny 2 with the same like early pandemic fervor?
Not exactly, but like it's very much like the mutagenic strain has like changed, and now like so I can't do any of the raids because I don't have 5 friends to do them with, which sucks ass because that's where all the cool shit is. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally one of the tabs I have on my computer right now is Destiny Sherpa, which is just like people that have more time than me who are just better at that will run you through the raid if you like coordinate it for them. And I'm like seriously considering doing that just because I'm like, well, I mean, the new expansion's coming out in a couple of months and I wanna see some of this stuff. So
people just do that out of like the kindness of their heart. They like doing it.
It seems like it, which is like very surprising, and like I still don't trust it, and I obviously haven't worked up the courage to like post on the forums asking someone to do it because I like then I'll have to like coordinate like 5 different people's like PlayStation Network names to like invite them to a fire team, and I'll probably screw it up because it's a really unintuitive system. But yeah, I mean, I'm like inching closer to just being like, I could do this, and then my brain just starts going like, well, I mean, you have to now. Like now that you know like, that it's possible. It was easier.
You just have to do project management.
Like truly, yeah, like truly.
And I feel like at any other time in your life, when your brain started like thirsting after this horrible draft, another part of your brain would just be like, or you could go outside. That's not an option now.
It's literally not. And like I try to get out for like walks sometimes, but it's just like every time you step outside you feel like you're in like a pandemic movie. Like it feels a little bit like a movie where you're just like, I literally don't know what's safe and what's not, and nothing, like no amount of learning I do about it seems to satisfy me. So I literally feel like I need to walk back into my apartment and get like sprayed down by the gas. You know, like when an explorer's been on an alien planet and they have to go through like decontamination. Like it feels wrong that I'm not doing that every time.
Yeah, how come? That's a good point. Why isn't anyone marketing this gas? I want to get like I'm thinking about the gas now. I haven't thought about the gas since you brought it up just now, and like I feel deprived that I don't have it. Like, well, that's the thing that would put my mind at ease if there was a big white poof that went up and down and it went the whole time.
My thing is, I just have like a constant background process of my mind that is cataloging everything I've touched and all surfaces in my apartment that have possibly been contaminated. Even when I've not left the apartment for the day, it's just like this is now a thing that's always running. Like I'm acutely aware of surface contact between even clean objects, and I can't turn that part of my brain off.
Like 100%. Like I won't leave the apartment for like a day, and then I'll be like touching my face and be like, what if this is what gets it to me? Like you just can't stop. Like you can't stop thinking about it. But then like I'll just be like rolling around. Like obviously like you still have to go out and like get groceries. You still have to go out and like do stuff. But like I'll roll around and then I'll just be like absolutely like scratching at my face in the car on the way home. And I was like, oh, that's the bad thing. That's the thing they tell you not to do. That's literally the only thing that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, every grocery store is a nightmare because it's just like people breathing on bananas and everyone like passes them around.
I just was at the grocery store earlier today, and this isn't the one I usually go to. I usually go to Aldi, where everyone sort of follows the rules. This was Tony's, and I was like, good, everyone's wearing masks. And then I like sort of did a double take as I realized that fucking literally every single one of these people had their fucking nude nose hanging out, just breathing Rona particles fucking everywhere. I'm just like, great.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I've also seen the chin strap, which is frustrating because it's like, just why are you doing it then? Like, you just go maskless. Like, embrace it.
The chin strap is just covering your bases for if a service worker whose life you are endangering by doing that actually feels empowered enough to be like, hey, sir, you actually need to put that over your face so that you don't breathe death particles at me and kill me because my job won't let me not be here.
Yeah, and then you can just point to the chin strap and go into the store no matter what.
All right. I gotta ask the question. You know it was coming. I've wanted to ask it this whole time, and I can't hold out any longer. So, Alex, I put it to you. Are you an anime sicko?
Tom, yes. Emphatic yes.
Hey.
I love clarity of purpose. We haven't had one of those in a while. A lot of hemming and hawing, but you know what's up.
I thought about the best way to tell this story because this was the one where I like knew I had my answer. So the summer before I went to college, I literally like sat down with myself and I was like, Alex, you know, like you're gonna be away from home for the first time. You're like probably gonna want to kiss a lady, and like no one at your artsy fartsy liberal arts college is gonna want to kiss you if you still watch anime. So I literally just sat down in my basement the whole summer, like watching like all of the illegal anime I could get my hands on, because like almost like I was trying to I was trying to like overload the system so that I wouldn't need it anymore.
You were trying to smoke the whole pack.
I was literally trying to smoke the whole pack, and then not 2 months later or 3 months later when I was at college, we had a peer-to-peer file sharing network, and I found somebody that had all of Outlaw Star up for sale, and I literally tried to show my girlfriend it. Like, it didn't work. I didn't even make it like 3 months.
No, I know the answer to this question. It's no. Did your girlfriend like Outlaw Star?
Absolutely not. Having just completed the rewatch, thank God I only showed her like one episode, because that show gets outrageously horny so quickly.
It's a really like interesting sort of grim bounty hunter story, and then like a big titty cat lady shows up.
Like literally a big titty cat lady who like exists narratively to be like sexually demeaned. Like that's the only thing Aisha does for the entire show, is just like exist in a state of like constant like body humiliation. Even though she can also turn into a giant tiger, which sounds way cooler.
I don't even remember like what her role on the ship was.
It's literally nothing. She doesn't do anything. She just yells really loudly and, like, is just kind of there because they needed a cat girl.
Yeah, sounds like anime.
It was straight up just like I was looking it up while I was watching it, and it came out the same year as Cowboy Bebop, and it blows my mind that there were 2 like bounty hunting space shows, and one of them was about how like you just can't ever outrun the past, and like you're just forever going to be like reliving your best mistake, and the other one is just like, yeah, what if your ship's navigational computer was a sexy lady who had to get nude? Like.
It's a flow chart. Like, you want an outlaw narrative. Well, do you want it to be real shitty?
And the thing that drives me nuts about it is that, like, I thought there were like all these like fun, like swashbuckling parts of it, but the first 2/3 of the series of Outlaw Star is them trying and failing to make enough money for their like shitty magic arm ships repairs that they can leave the dock they've been at since episode 3 to finally go on a quest to find this galactic ley line. And it's not until like episode 22 out of 26 that they finally make it there.
And that's the show where you have like magic bullets that like when you shoot them it like sucks your life force out.
And they just like never get used. Like there's never any reason for it.
I feel like is this a theme in like mid-90s anime where there's like 26 episodes and like the plot occurs in episodes 1, 25, and 26, and then the rest is just like, duh, they ordered a bunch more episodes than we had planned. Because like I recently watched Evangelion and I've been openly disdainful of it, but that is a series where the plot happens in episodes 1, 25, and 26, and literally every time they fight an angel, you could just snip that out of the series and not miss a beat.
I watched, I don't remember which Tenchi Muyo on Toonami, but all of those shows are like that, where it's like 23 episodes of like 8 anime girls trying to fuck this white bread idiot, and then like he gets a sword on episode 26 and has to like stop everything.
It doesn't make any sense, like, because I remember, like, they foregrounded the laser sword in Tenchi Muyo when it was on Toonami, like, really hard, and then I was watching it, and I was like, this show is just about, like, 4 women who, like, love going to a bath and, like, lusting after this dumbass. Like, even at, like, age 11, I was like, this seems strange and wrong.
Yeah, and also, we watched it on Toonami, so I imagine, like, there was probably, like, excessive gross horny stuff that was even cut for that, which, like, if we're clear, is basically the point of the show.
A young man's like first introduction to a bathhouse episode, and you're like 12 and you're like, what's going on, what's happening?
Yeah, why is this on at 3 p.m?
I would simply bathe in a special room with a locked door. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
Alex, I felt great relief and joy when I found out you are also a big Monster Hunter sicko.
Nothing better. Truly nothing better than finding a kindred spirit for Monster Hunter. I
ask you this. Is it the most video game of all time?
Yeah. I 100% agree, and I think my answer for that also kind of rolls into, like, a brief explanation of what Monster Hunter is. I guess for sickos who may not be aware, Monster Hunter is a game where you, like, roll up to a village as a member of the Guild of Monster Hunting, and an old dude or lady is just like, oh yeah, we got some monsters you need to take care of, and then you just sort of systematically disassemble them for maybe like 300 hours.
Yeah, 300 hours gets you like to the end game.
And the end game, of course, is where like you actually have to start paying attention. I got into Monster Hunter because Joe was like, you should get the Generations Ultimate for the Switch. And I was like, okay. And then I started to play it, and I was like, I wonder how to play. And the game was like, let me teach you. First, carry a big egg for 20 minutes. And I'm like, this doesn't seem very fun. And the game is like, it's not. You're never going to have to do that again. Anyway, the tutorial over. And I'm like, how do I fight the monsters? And it's like, fuck you. Anyway, I eventually got into it, but I had to drop that game because it is the Divorce Factory. It is, it is the game that takes your attention off of literally every other thing in the universe for like 5 hours at a time, and there's like not a single moment of downtime where you can like turn to another person and say like hello.
Yeah, it also sucks because it is not fun to watch if you're not playing, because it's just you like stomping the same monster to get like its toe for 10 hours.
Well, and the irony is that like there is a way in which you can make it kind of interesting for an outsider, which is to show them one of these people online who's just like, oh, here's me soloing Furious Rajang in 5 minutes and 13 seconds. But then you show that to someone and they're like, oh, so you can do that? And you go, no, when I do it, it takes like 45 minutes and it's mostly just me running around the arena and not actually hitting it and healing because it hit me once.
Sometimes I die at the 40-minute mark, thus wasting my entire time previously.
Sometimes I defeat the Rajang, but then when I carve it up, I do not get the piece of it that I want, so I'm required to fight it again, and then that time I get the piece that I want, and I go, oh boy, only 4 more to go.
The absolute best shit is playing with someone and helping them farm an item they need, and the game has no trading of monster materials, and they do that to keep you from just like, you know, giving other players everything they need. But you get the wonderful sensation of like your buddy's like, oh man, I really need this gem, and will you help me get it? And you're like, sure. And then you proceed to get hundreds of gems when he gets none, and you can't give them to him, and he wants to kill you.
Right, and then he gets upset and logs off, and then you just have to keep playing.
Yeah.
And like Monster Hunter World is like a little bit better about, it's both better and worse about making sure that you don't have to grind like the gems, which are the really rare things, but it also doesn't allow you to trade monster parts to like literally just like you're in Plato's allegory of the cave, like that's how it keeps you from like noticing that it's just the shadows reflected on the wall. It's just like, well, if you didn't have to continually fight this same monster over and over again, you might realize that this core conceit sounds insane and unhealthy when you describe it to anybody who doesn't have the same like brain virus that you have.
Yeah.
Alex, I gotta ask, since you bring up a brain virus, I kind of want to know your Monster Hunter origin story. How early on in the series did you get on the wagon?
Because the older games are inscrutable. They hate you. They dare you to enjoy them. Like they're not made to be played and enjoyed.
Listen. I never get to brag about this, so I'm excited to bring this up. I purchased the original Monster Hunter for the PlayStation 2 in spite of having no way to play it online, and proceeded to beat every quest that I could by the time I left high school. There was a long fallow period, and then I just picked it back up one day, and I just kept playing it. And the original Monster Hunter, like you say, Joe, is miserable. They do not give you any elemental weapons. You can't get any of the good ones online. You don't even fight like the basic wyvern until the like 3-star quests show up. And even then it's like, hey, are you good at like setting bombs and like using traps to like blow this thing up? Like, no, well then you're never gonna beat it. Like, oh well.
The skill system until World was one of the most intentionally hurtful like stat systems I've ever experienced in a game. It's the only game I've ever heard of where like in order to get a skill, you have to get 10 points in the skill. So if you have like health up and you have 9 points in health up,
you have 0 points.
It doesn't count until you hit that 10. And there are negative skills, so like you can like there's always like good armor that has like negative skills on it. So you have to like compensate it, because like if you get -5 in a skill, it's usually like a huge quality of life issue.
When you first explained to me how this system worked, I was so pissed that I had to think that you were lying to me and be angry at you for betraying my trust, because the idea that what you were saying was true would make me so mad that my blood would become poison and I'd never recover.
Monster Hunter World is better because there isn't that 10-point threshold. Like, if you have a skill, it does something, and then you stack them. It still has the classic Monster Hunter problem of the skills are named just awful shit that is not clear at all.
Do you think it's possible for any human being who bought a game at the store to look at the skill Fungus Master and know what the fuck it does?
Fungus Master in particular is a real screw you, because it does not even in-game explain what funguses you can eat for what benefits.
The skill description is also Fungus Master, master the fungus.
I think the most famous fucked up Monster Hunter skills is the trio of sharpness, sharpener, and handicraft, which is the only one of the three that boosts your sharpness.
Yeah, it's real bad. And I think that's why it's so addictive, because if you put in the work and get abused by the game, you're a lifer now.
You literally just have this skill, and you're like, well, what am I gonna do? Not leverage this skill? I'm already decent at the game, so there's no reason for me to stop playing it.
So I gotta ask, and this is basically the whole point of Monster Hunter, is deciding what weapons you're going to use, because there aren't classes, it's just weapons, and the weapons are everything. The weapons play completely different.
They each have a weird meter that doesn't get explained properly.
Yes, so
they love meters.
Yes,
there's actually a skill in World you can get that gives you an extra meter if you just don't think you have enough.
Oh my god!
So, what are your weapons? What do you play with?
Thinking about this, I actually have kind of a spread, which I'm happy about. None of them are the correct choice, which is obviously Sword and Shield, which you and I have been messaging a little bit about. When I tried Sword and Shield for the first time in Monster Hunter, I was like, is this just how you feel all the time?
Yeah, it's just oh, I want to dodge easily and swing a sword and not be committed into awful attack animations. That's it.
Just like the moment I realized I was I can see a monster's attack coming and just hunker down and I'm fine, as opposed to the weapons I normally use, where it's just well, good luck. So I started off in Monster Hunter 1 using a greatsword because I was a teen and I wanted the biggest sword I could find. And then when I moved to the PSP games, so this was Monster Hunter Freedom 2 and its expansion, I was a staunch longsword user. It was all I used. And that was my bread and butter.
And they say longsword, but it's a big katana.
It's a big... The only thing that differentiates it from the greatsword is that it's a little slimmer and it has a sheath. So I guess, I don't know. You just don't need a sheath for the greatsword.
Yeah, you just put the sword on your back and it's bigger than you. It's pretty normal.
It's super normal. When Monster Hunter 3 came out for the Wii, I continued using the longsword, obviously, but that was my first foray into the switch axe, which is different than the charge blade, which we will get into. But the switch axe is a big axe that turns into a sword. And then when Monster Hunter 4 came out, I used the insect glaive a lot.
Oh god, this shit is the most ridiculous bullshit. Insect glaive. What is this? Tell me in your words what this shit is.
So the insect glaive is it's like a staff or a kind of a cutting spear, but that's not all. On your other arm, you got a little bug friend that you can shoot at different parts of the monster, and your little bug friend, if he hits a certain part of the monster, will get charged with an extract, which you can then recall to get the extract into yourself. And if you get different combinations of these 3 colored extracts, you power yourself up. So you can do like a sicko apeshit mode if you get the red and the white extract that like doubles up all of your attack animations. So the Insect Glaive was really good for like mounting monsters which they introduced and like cutting off their parts. I would get into a fight and then within like 5 minutes I had just like disassembled this thing. Like I'd broken its wings, its tail, its face. I felt really bad about it when all was said and done.
The thing about the Insect Glaive that really just makes me smile and really warms my heart is that the insect, as far as I can tell, no one has ever described that it has any sort of connection to the glaive. Like, why don't you just have a bug friend with any other weapon? Like, just always have a bug.
Well, I mean, this is why we need you asking these questions, because I don't know, but apparently the Insect Glaive's the only one that gets it.
Monster Hunter is big on weapons that change into other shit when a bar gets filled. I don't mess with that stuff because I'm too dumb, and I can't always be mentally preparing for a like another weapon phase.
No, it's way more hassle than it's worth, and like my favorite thing to do is, so like we talked about the switch axe, which is an axe that turns into a sword, but there's also the charge blade, which they introduced I think in Monster Hunter 4, I'm not certain, but that is a sword and shield that turns into an axe. And my favorite thing to do is you tell people about those two weapons and watch them become visibly pissed off when they realize they are two separate weapons.
I also love that with the switch axe mode is for babies and is shit, and you want to get to sword mode ASAP. And for the charge blade, sword mode is shit and for babies. You want to get to the axe ASAP.
The switch axe rules because it's like, well, this axe, the goal, you want to make it a sword.
It's maybe the most deranged thing on the face of the planet, and I really can't get enough of it.
Like lore-wise and sort of flavor, the technology in Monster Hunter games is goofy. Because like the switch axe that we're describing, the charge blade we're describing, I would describe these as advanced technological artifacts, right?
Right. They use like files and shit. There's like some sort of like power mechanism to them.
But like the village is like still just like a big hut. Like there aren't cars.
Yeah, it sucks shit. There's like no cars. It's just like one dirt path. Like
it's not clear like where the tech tree is in this world.
Yeah, like they don't have guns. They have bow guns, which are these big honking like crossbow type things that like have some sort of gunpowder in them, I think. But the only place that you do have a gun is on a gun lance, which is a lance. You can have a normal one, but you can also have one that has a gun. And you might be thinking, why would I ever want the one that doesn't have a gun? Well, it's because the bullets do 0 damage, silly.
You also have to reload them, so you get to feel the terror of like a huge T-Rex like charging up a huge fireball as you like try to cram shells into your big spear.
Insanely bogus.
I gotta ask, you played the PSP game. Can you describe for Tom and our listeners what the claw grip was?
Oh, dude, the claw grip was a specific way that you needed to hold your hands because you couldn't be attacking, moving, and positioning the camera around unless you were doing this very specific thing. And you also needed to keep your fingers on the bumpers because that was how you moved your items around. So at any one time, you needed to be operating like 4 different things with your hands. So you just had this like weird claw grip where you were like laying your index finger on the D-pad so that you could be swiveling the camera around while using both of your thumbs to attack and move at the same time, while also keeping 2 more fingers on the bumpers so that you could move to your potions if that was what you needed.
It was the most popular game in Japan, and it like for sure gives you arthritis.
I'm literally waiting. I'm like a ticking time bomb. I already know it. Like
I didn't play the PSP games because of the claw grip.
Okay, Joe. Here, oh man, I've taken fucking psychic damage right now. I gotta tell you what I thought you meant when you said claw grip. I thought you were asking Alex to describe a weapon type that was only in one game. That was probably like the thing that Vega has in Street Fighter, like some Wolverine claws that you might grip.
Claw grip is a mindset. It's like a success system.
If you can learn to do the claw grip, you can literally set your mind to anything. Like, nothing is beyond your grasp.
The only thing I've ever seen that close to the claw grip is, I guess, some of the people who play competitive Smash Brothers Melee have a similar weird grip for GameCube controllers.
I thought that F-Zero was bad in that, like, the most effective advanced tech is so difficult to perform. Not, like, difficult, like, in terms of precision, but difficult in terms of, like, your human body. It's so difficult to perform that they had to sort of like make it a secondary speedrun category instead of the main one, even though the main one is slower. Because if you do this shit enough to become a world record contender, your hands fall off. But at least with that, you're still holding the controller the normal way.
Yeah, it's bad. And they were on PSP for a while. And the games went to the 3DS. And you didn't have to do claw grip for the 3DS. However, if you used a ranged weapon, you had like some awful, weird stylus grip for the bottom screen. I never used a ranged weapon, even in Monster Hunter World, where I could use a mouse and keyboard. I refused to. And
that's the trick, is like unless you're just committed to being in like the top 1% of gamers. Like unless you're like ascending, like lifting your skinny fists to heaven, there's no point in doing ranged weapons in Monster Hunter World past low rank, in my opinion, because every single monster will slap the shit out of you in like 2 hits, and there's nothing you can do to avoid it.
Yeah, all ranged weapons have like reduced armor, so you get destroyed very easily.
Mm-hmm. And they always allege they make up for it by having higher elemental defense, but it's like, it's already so reduced that it's like, I'm not surviving a single fireball if it hits me anyways. Like, this means nothing to me. Like,
yeah, when like a monster can do like a nuclear explosion, it doesn't matter that it shaved off like 5% of the damage. You're still like so dead.
Another thing that I think we need to sort of discuss, especially if someone listening to this isn't familiar with Monster Hunter, is they may be tricked by the title into thinking that Monster Hunter is a game where you hunt a variety of creative, goofy animals and monsters with fun and interesting designs. No, that's wrong. The appropriate title that accurately describes the content you'll find in a Monster Hunter game would be Dino Crisis, because it is 100% dinosaur based. You fight dinosaurs.
Yeah. It rules because every game they have like flagship monsters. Like, this is the new thing we're adding. And like for Monster Hunter World, they added like this really cool owl. But it doesn't matter because still the game is 98% dinosaur murder.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the owl is cool, but, like, you have to fight it once, and then it never comes up again. You can fight it a bunch more times to get cool armor made out of its special feathers, but the armor gives you an ability that's, like, Sleepy Boy, that, like, you have no fucking clue what it does, and you look up what it does on the internet, and you're like, well, that can't be right, because that's useless, and I have to spend 100 hours fighting this owl to get it. And then you're just like, oh, no, it is useless. Huh? And then you move on.
The skill makes like killing owls easier, which you don't need to do anymore because
and that's the dirtiest trick they play with all of. So it's Tom, you're absolutely right. It is mostly dinosaur based, but there are a small number of monsters called elder dragons, which are just like, we don't really know like how they fit into any ecological system, and they like always fuck shit up when they show up. So you need to repel them with extreme prejudice. And to a T, the armor you get from the Elder Dragons makes you better at fighting the Elder Dragons and is basically useless otherwise.
Yeah, the act of getting the dragon armor means you don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Another wild thing about getting this armor in Monster Hunter that I don't think we've touched on yet. I mean, we talked about how the skill system is that you have to have 10 points in a skill for it to turn on at all. one thing that I was thinking that I might do when I started this game was sort of like mix and match different armors and like create a unique build that fits my playstyle. No, that's impossible, because the only way to hit 10 in anything is to fucking have an entire set of shoes, pants, and fucking shirt of the same monster type. And if you only have the shoes or pants, you're at 7 of everything. You're like, well, does anything else have the final 3? No, only the shirt from the fucking same monster. You have to. You can only ever wear a set. That's it. Never can you make a decision otherwise. And so the game forces you to constantly play the same content over and over and over. And it's really good.
Yeah, it's the best game I've ever played. Like I don't know what else to say. I can't think of a game that has as good of a gameplay loop as Monster Hunter. It kind of feels like how MMOs felt. Like the most fun I've ever had with an MMO, the gameplay loop feels similar to Monster Hunter, with the added benefit that I don't have to like depend on other people. Like the way co-op is, Monster Hunter has a bunch of horrible quality of life choices as a game. That said, the ease at which you just like team up with randos and kick the shit out of a dinosaur is perfect.
The addition of the SOS flare in Monster Hunter World is like maybe one of the funniest things you do, where it's like essentially just like if you don't think you can beat a monster on your own, you shoot a little glowing ball into the air, and like a crack team of commandos from Japan shows up and just kicks the shit out of whatever you're fighting and then leaves. And then everybody does the one thumbs up emote, and then that's it. Like,
I was in every game.
I was struggling fighting the ape that goes Super Saiyan, Rajang, and I couldn't do it. And then I just shot a flare up, and I was lucky enough that literally like SEAL Team 6 showed up. It was 3 guys with bow guns, and like no one took any damage. They just murderized this ape, and then it was done. And I never met them again. I don't know how to beat the ape on my own.
You don't beat the ape so much as you just kind of like wear it down after a certain point.
So Alex, I'm looking at the document here, and I'm seeing you. There's some big talk from you. Big talk that you've got a fun anecdote. Do you? You say that you have an anecdote about charms. Now, I don't really remember what charms do, but I remember they were very stupid. Please blow me away.
So, so charms were one of the few ways in the earlier Monster Hunter games where you could kind of break free of the trap of needing to wear a monster's like whole set of armor. Like, charms were these. It was an extra equipment slot that came with randomized points in random skills and additional skill slots that you could slot gems into. So even if the monster armor that you liked using like didn't have earplugs on it, if you had enough slots between your armor pieces and your charm, there was a chance that you could get high grade earplugs, which is the best skill in the game, because it meant that you didn't have to cover your dumb little ears when a monster roared, and you could just keep hitting it until it died. However, in Monster Hunter 3 for the 3DS, you had what was called a charm table that you were locked into when you created the game.
This is video game shit. I love this.
Wait, what? You only had one charm?
No. So you had a charm table. The way they programmed this, you couldn't roll every single skill in every single configuration because it would be too much. Instead, you had a spread of skills on each of these 10 charm tables, and the charm table that you got was determined from the minute you started your game file. It took like the 10th digit of your DS's internal clock, and that determined what charm table you were on. And so you couldn't even check what it was until maybe you were like 30 hours into the game. But the problem was, if you weren't on the right charm table, you might not be able to use all the skills that you wanted. So there was one time that I decided in a 390 hours played file of Monster Hunter, I was going to check my charm table because I knew what charm table the charm that I needed to make my perfect build was on. And do you know what I found out when I did this?
Everything worked. That it was really good.
That I had been off by 1 second in my internal clock, and I was locked out of the charm table that I needed to make my build work. I put it down and I never looked back. I was just like, good day, I am done with this iteration of Monster Hunter. I will see you on the next one.
The design that it takes to, like, fucking make a Raytheon missile that murders hundreds of children is less sort of hostile and diseased than the design it would take to make that happen.
And the only way you can find out what charm table you're on is like basically the process of elimination. Like you look at this table and you find out what shit you've gotten, and then you're like comparing these spreadsheets.
What's funny is they did eventually figure out a different way to do it, but that's why it took until you were 30 hours into the game to do it, was you needed to unlock all 3 of these fishing boats, and you needed to determine, you needed to send them all on a quest, and you found out what they brought back for you in what order, and you punched it into like a website, and that told you what charm table you were on.
Jesus Christ! Like, the fact that this game is profitable at all is a fucking miracle, and the fact that it's also the most popular game in one of the most gaming-hungry countries on Earth is just incomprehensible. Like, especially because, like, I remember I was like, I wonder how much damage each attack does for my weapon. I'm gonna go look it up, and instead of having damage on the fucking...
buddy, you got motion values.
Yeah, you get your motion values, baby.
Yeah, it's like, this attack does 15 motion value, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, when did we decide this? Huh? What?
Yeah, motion values are like you could have a sword that has 100 damage, but every move has different motion values. So you could have like an attack on your 100 damage sword would actually do somehow less damage because the motion value of that particular strike sucked ass. None of this is explained in the game.
The thing that I also find the funniest is that, like, in an effort to make Monster Hunter World more accessible, every time you hit a monster in Monster Hunter World, a little number pops up, like in a normal game. But what you actually find is that number is bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. It's made up. Yeah. It's literally like you're in hospice, and they're just like, I mean, like, look, people want to see something pop up when they hit the monsters, so I don't know, like...
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What? I just went on such a fucking roller coaster because I didn't know about this number shit. And I was like, for a second, I felt like this wave of like light enter me as I'm like, oh my god, they did it. This is it's so amazing. And then no, they didn't change at all. It's all hostile and cruel and anti-life.
Yeah, the only way you could know if you were hitting a weak spot of the monster in the games before Monster Hunter World is that there would be a little more blood in the attack animation. That's the only way to know. And the resolution on all these handheld devices, which it was on, are awful.
Terrible. Just dog shit.
The textures look like shit. The game looks the game has that distinct like PS2 feel where it's like the models are like pretty good, but some of the textures look like a really bad paint like bitmap.
It's like if you were like walking on like a jungle floor, it would just be like a flat plane with like a bunch of leaf textures put on it. And you're just like, I guess this is a jungle. I don't know. Like maybe I could buy this as a jungle.
Yeah, and Monster Hunter World was the first game where they were like, oh, it doesn't have to look like shit.
So to wrap up our Monster Hunter segment, Alex, we've been ragging on this game about how it's inscrutable, and how every time you go to fight a monster on a snowy mountain, you have to drink Kool-Aid that your mom warmed up in the microwave, or else you die from the cold. And if you start the mission without your Kool-Aid, you have to just give up because you can't get any. You have to bring it with at the beginning. So we've been ragging on this game. Rightly so. But it's like also a really good... Can you explain like why? Like, not as a joke, what's good about Monster Hunter?
In true anime sicko style, it's like the closest you can get to just having like a shonen arc where like you
Yes!
you straight up just like you start off as this like pitiful weakling and it takes you so long to kill anything, and then like you just slowly get stronger. And then, like, the first time you watch that, that giant wyvern just, like, drop into its death throes, and you're just like, I did that. Like, I took on something that was, like, 5 times larger than myself with no help. The game didn't help me at all. Like, I had to do all this prep beforehand. Like, it just, every single victory you have feels earned. Like, there's nothing better than just, like, having a really hard time with something and then just, like, having a really hard time with a monster and then, like, you either eventually just brute force your way through it or you, like, change up your tactics and it feels like one of your hands has been tied behind your back and you just, like, successfully force it free. There's nothing like it. It truly is just, like, a power trip, I guess.
That fucking shonen arc analogy is ringing so fucking true. Because, like, yeah, you just gotta go and do your training arc. And then you're like, I've done it, success. And then a new villain shows up who's way stronger and you're baby mode again. And you're like, guess I gotta do another training arc. My special mode is bullshit now.
There's also, like, the good anime reveal that there's, like, oh, you didn't know? There's an entire harder level you didn't know about because, like, you beat the game and it's like, well, that was low rank. Time to do high rank, which is the same thing, but everything hurts more.
And then you're like, I finally did it. I beat high rank. And it's like, great. Now G rank, which is the same, except now every monster is twice as fast and attacks twice as often and has super attacks.
That's
you don't.
Right. And there's new variants that are just even meaner. This dragon used to be red. Now it's blue. I completely skipped Arch-Tempered Namiel because I was just like, I'm not fucking dealing with this.
Oh yeah, that's Tom. It's a horrible dragon that spits bubbles everywhere, and then it also like shoots lightning, so everything that's wet just fucking blows up.
Jesus Christ!
And also, like, what is wet? Not clear.
Of course.
Yeah,
why would it be?
Kind of hard to tell. Because some of the levels are already wet, but they're not wet in the right way.
Yeah, when it flies to the zone that's like a shallow puddle, you're like, fuck you, man.
I really vibe with your idea that, like, the fact that the game is so cruel and withholding to you makes beating it all the better. It's like if you're trying to spend a night on the street and it's like the only place to sleep is some like hostile architecture bench that has like spikes on it, and you're like, I'm just gonna fucking sleep on the spikes, and then you manage to sleep on the spikes and you get up in the morning and you're like, fuck you, spikes, I slept here anyway.
And everything we said that sucks about Monster Hunter is true, and we are not really like exaggerating its obtuseness and its difficulty, and that speaks to like how fucking good the game is, that it can be that hostile and aggressive and mean and spit in your eye and you still want to deal with it.
It breeds a curiosity that I don't think a lot of other games have really figured out how to breed, which is just like, I'm never bummed out when I'm like looking up like how to beat a monster. I'm like, well, how are other people doing this? Like, I think I've sort of realized that I just like doing work when I play games, which is really sad. And I sort of wish I was able to channel that into something that was like healthy or constructive, but you just like want to figure things out because the game just doesn't explain anything to you.
Yeah, which is what life is.
Damn.
Cog Talk. Cog Talk.
Alex, we're going to do a Cog Talk because you are someone who pays their bills by being an online writer, something I did for a very long time. And we've talked offline, and the gist of it is writing's a fake skill. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make money doing it. Online content is an awful desert that makes listicles and nothing of value.
It is impossible to get a job as a writer. What you get when you think you're getting a job as a writer is actually you are beginning to develop a layoff. You put a layoff in the oven, and a couple months later you're going to open it up and take it out. And you're going to realize you never had a job in the first place. You were just developing a layoff.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I had one of my friends in college had an internship at a writing magazine, which still exists online as a Medium publication, which is just a beautiful sentence to say out loud in 2020, and doesn't make me at all want to lie down in the swamp from The Neverending Story, where you get depressed. But one of the people she worked with there said that, like, sending a submission into a writing magazine is just like sending yourself a letter bomb in the mail when it gets rejected. And somehow we've created a system that's worse than that for content creation.
Oh no.
Yeah, because any good writing job is currently trying to be eliminated, right? Like, there's a guy in a suit being like, well, this can't be. Like, we got to get rid of this.
He's dying to cut it. Like, he just doesn't know what to do with himself. He's visibly perspiring. It's just like it's literally like the Connor O'Malley guy from the Honk If You're Horny sketch from I Think You Should Leave. Like, that's that dude for cutting writing jobs. He's just like screaming and honking his horn, and the only release he gets, the only time he calms down, is when he's just like fucked up a writer's room beyond recognition.
Yeah, and also bonus points if he busted a union in the process.
Oh man.
Like, what are even the good sites? I remember, like, when I was in college, there was like a handful of sites that I would be like, wow, it would be really cool to write there. And I'd say 90% of those are gone, or they've been replaced with just like straight up listicles.
Well, yeah, because there's kind of the split, because there's like the good... You know, like, I think everybody zeroes in on Gawker, and this might get me in some trouble. Gawker's a complicated case, because they did a lot of good stuff, but they also did a lot of extremely shitty stuff, too.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, because there's, like, a difference between, like, what were the good sites for news versus what were, like, the fun sites you used to be able to check. And, like, all of those were, dropping like flies.
Yeah, the idea that content wasn't just like your Twitter feed, like you actually went to sites.
Mm-hmm. Like going to the All and just like reading a funny story, or like going to the Toast, like, and reading something that Daniel Ortberg was writing. Like, that was like a little treat you could save for yourself in the middle of the day, and now it's just gone.
Yeah, I actually blame Gawker getting nuked for my Twitter problem, because I was on Gawker like every day, like that was my do thing at work, and then when it got nuked, I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna do this Twitter shit, I haven't turned back, and it sucks.
That was all I did when I worked at Grubhub. The entire spring I worked there before I got an unpaid internship somewhere else, which I comically thought was going to lead to better and brighter things. I literally just read the leaks from the Sony hacks, like the entire spring of 2015. That was like all I did at work. Yeah,
and there isn't like a place online that is a definitive like publication that would do something with these huge data leaks or hacks or like big stories. Now it's just like whatever investigative journalists got their hands on it, it's like theirs now. But like Gawker had like a whole enterprise about getting these tips and like turning them into things. Like they had like the Epstein Black Book in like 2014.
Just like unreal. And the thing that gets me about the current climate is that like there is no way to build any sort of archive or history or anything to like keep people on your site in any way, shape, or form. Like someone writes an article, I read it, and then I'm like, that's cool, and then it's like I hit a delete button, and I'm like, and now it's gone.
Yeah, I started doing this thing which I gave up on very quickly, which is just copy pasting things I read that day, so I could have some sense of permanence with like words that I've read. And I couldn't stick with it because the whole feeling is so ephemeral. It just feels like online is a bathroom wall, and like everyone just writes new shit on it every day.
And I think that's partially by design, where it's like I had a brief stint as like a games writer. I was covering games back in like 2016, and what that meant was that I had a search term, and my search term was Pokemon Go. So I was writing SEO optimized articles about Pokemon Go, which ironically has paid more dividends because that's a game I still play today because I find it a comfort in these dark times. But I can count the articles. Like when I got laid off from that job extremely abruptly, I remember like there was this huge panic that they were going to delete the archive, so you had to like journal portfolio your entire like all the articles you wanted to keep, and it's like I'm still paying for that, and I can't tell you like what is in there that I would like wrote that I was like happy with at the time.
Jesus Christ. The
one that I did, I had one about like this was one that got me written up on the Gamergate subreddit. Was I covered their particular distaste for the latest Mass Effect game before it came out, and that one got me signed up for like a bunch of spam, and they sent like a bunch of like pornography mailers to the office. So I had to write my boss being like, "Hey, if you get these addressed to me, like I didn't do that. Like a bunch of like alt-right weirdos found out where the office was, and they're addressing this to you. So sorry, I guess."
So that's all it took to get on like the shit wiki that all the creeps just like reference.
That's also when you sign up for the porno mailer that you actually do like, because this is a perfect camo.
But the problem was it was based out of New York, so I would have had to like do a lot of like skullduggery to be like, oh, but if you get like this one, like you actually can just forward that one to me for like a prank. Like I just want the one, like as a joke. It's not a real thing.
So you still do the SEO writing thing. I did that for a while, so I wanted to know if we could bond over like, how would you describe the feeling of writing for an algorithm first? I always found it like I wanted to do a good job, but the circumstances quite literally did not allow me to do so.
Yeah, it's like a weird heady combination of like knowing that you're not doing your due diligence while also kind of convincing yourself that you are hamstrung by the fact that you only have like an hour to write any of these articles. Because that was always when I was working at the games, like at the game site, it was like sometimes it's just like they were like this article's header needs to be filled with search terms that it's going to hit for, and I'm like, well, I mean, like this is a 400-word explainer on how to get Umbreon in Pokemon Go. Like I don't really think it justifies all that, but so you're just sort of like you're literally just like typing in with your dumb little fingers on Suval, like, Pokemon Go Umbreon, and then you're just looking at everything that hits for it, and those are all your search terms, bing, bang, boom. And it's like, I don't feel good about this, but it feels nice that I filled up the bar.
This is a thing that really hits me in the soul. The idea that, like, the way the world is, we're incapable of like doing a good job and it mattering. Like it'd be one thing if I was just like, damn, I'm toiling in obscurity, but it's just because I'm not good enough yet. Maybe one day I'll hit it big. Maybe one day I'll catch the eye of the vibrant scene. No, it can't happen ever.
Like and also the best written like SEO optimized article still feels clunky. Like it like once you know the game, all you see is the heavy-handed search term inclusion.
it's like a strange type of like soulless, where even the stuff that's like objectively like well written and seems to be like knowledgeable, like still reads as though the person who wrote it had a gun to their head the entire time they were doing it. Like just waiting for the little SEO score in WordPress to go from a green smiling face to a yellow like middling face before the guy like pulls the hammer back, and you have to like add in your search term again to make sure that it hits right.
The whole SEO game is such bullshit, because the algorithm that runs the whole internet, which is Google search term, is itself a black box. Like they make changes to this thing. There are SEO experts who will say they know exactly what Google looks for, but they're fucking lying. What they know is like what has worked up until that point.
Well, and the funny thing is that it's literally just like, it feels as though you are like thieving from the foot of some sort of great god king, because there was a dude on an improv team I was on who worked for Google, and every time I would bring up SEO, he would get really like butthurt, because nobody at Google likes SEO because they don't like that you're tricking their search engine. And all I would tell him is being like, I don't know, dude, like you work for the company that fucked up the whole internet, so like maybe you can stow it for this one.
Yeah, it's like the entire internet runs on this organic search traffic, which is how they make money, and you're upset that it made them rich?
Right, you're upset that it's literally making you rich currently. Like, I've walked by the Google campus in the West Loop. Like, I know what they pay you.
I think it's this insistence that like we actually aren't doing anything. We're just like air, like we're just around and neutral. And it's like, no, you're fucking not. You've ruined it all. Like,
yeah, the idea that algorithms are neutral is like, if someone is speaking in those terms or talking about SEO as just like, this is the way the world is, like they are suffering from baby brain. Like they are just accepting that the world that Google, one of the biggest companies on the planet, is just like saying that this is how the world works, and you just accept that. Like you have to play along, obviously, because that's how you make money and like survive on the internet. But it's not neutral. It didn't like come from the ground.
Speaking of baby brain show, I do want to bring up, while we still have time, that one of the real twisty the knife pieces of this whole scenario is that even though writing in a way that doesn't crush your soul is impossible, and writing in a way that does crush your soul but pays your bills is also pretty much impossible, the few people who are able to like write what they want and pull a big check are exclusively the smoothest brained fools of all time. Your Matthew Iglesias, your Daily Koses, who just were first to market and got grandfathered into the big club of guys who get paid to be around.
Yeah, like the real secret to writing is like, if you want to be a good writer, well, you definitely should have lived in Matt Iglesias' dorm in 2002. Like that's it.
It truly is just like you just need to have like a brain that's like too small to like do anything but like dumbly trust that the people at the levers of power have like anything but contempt for you. Like I see people online every once in a while that'll post like Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump in a projected general election from 538 with just like good morning, and I'm just like, what would it be like if my brain was like that? Like if that was like what I took away from that? Like truly no task would be beyond me.
Oh man, yeah. Nate Silver is like a perfect example of like the everything that sucks about the internet. It's like, what is Nate Silver's real skill? Well, he was like pretty right about the 2012 election, so naturally we need to have him do everything. Like it's the site where he gets to decide the probability of the republic, and everyone puts so much faith in this guy who is a stupid man.
He's a dumb.
He's really dumb.
My favorite like dumb guy thing, he has two moves that I really like. The first one is there'll be like some amount of data, right? And then he will basically explain why this doesn't actually mean anything. Like, his game is to, like, present you with data and then be like, well, when you think about it, like, it could go either way. So he's afraid of ever explicitly saying something. And
all of his data is like, this is just a joke, unless you're into it.
Yes.
The Pod Johns have a similar strategy. That was the thing. I was talking to a friend where I was like, it's weird that they just, like, haven't endorsed anybody. And my friend's like, well, they're not going to endorse somebody and then have them lose. Like, they have, like, a podcast empire to think about. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that does make sense. To just not have any morals.
Don't say anything falsifiable. Just constantly fucking be around. Like, that's the thing. All these guys aren't paid to, like, produce the thing that they make, because what they make no one could ever like. They're paid to be around. It's like how, like, Rahm Emanuel is not a mayor anymore. He's just a guy who's paid to be around. That's why he's on TV all the fucking time. That's why he's in the Atlantic, because they're like, well, Rahm Emanuel is the kind of guy whose job it is to be around, so we better pay him to come over.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Emanuels for a sec, if Zeke Emanuel makes good on his threat to not live past 75 by, like, euthanizing himself, he will ascend to the ranks of the strongest Emanuel brother, like, immediately.
Wait, is that a promise he's made?
No, but he just is constantly saying that we shouldn't let anybody live past the age of 75, and it's like, well, we do have a 74-year-old running for president, so...
Jesus Christ.
I read that awful op-ed he wrote, and I was like, this guy's a piece of shit. I didn't know he was an Emmanuel, and then I looked up at, like, the byline.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my god, because his other brother is, like, what one of the characters from the fucking HBO show is based on, right?
Entourage.
Entourage.
Oh.
Yeah, Ari Gold is based on Ari Emanuel, Jeremy Piven's character.
No fucking way. Yeah. God, they're all such awful people.
Yeah, and they all do different things. Like, they have, like, zones of influence. Like, you got the mayor guy, you have, like, the Entourage guy, you have the Dr. Murder guy.
Yeah, they're playing zone defense against anything good happening ever.
Yeah.
I just can't wait until the fourth Emanuel brother, like, wakes up from cryosleep, and he's just the really strong one.
I hope he's, like, an anime guy.
It's just like Baki's dad and Baki. Like, that's the fourth Emanuel brother.
Oh, my God. I want to talk about Baki, but we can't.
No.
We can't.
Well, I want to briefly... We don't have a lot of time left for this segment, but I do want to bring it... We've been talking a lot about how writing sucks. One thing that I think we do have to address is that not only just, like, writing, like, serious stuff suck and is fake and you can't do it, but also comedy writing isn't a thing anymore and hasn't for years. I remember when everyone wanted to write at Clickhole because it was great, and then it fucking failed because it didn't make any money because it didn't do listicles, and then it got bought by Cards Against Humanity, the racism and assault company, and they made it extremely shitty, and now you can't do it anymore. And The Onion is still around technically, but probably won't be in a couple months because how could it possibly make money? And there's nowhere else to write for.
Yeah, there's no, like, money in having a piece of content that, like, one, takes a little time to read and enjoy, and two, can't be, like, aggressively optimized for a news cycle.
And that's, like, the one... It does kind of feel like Clickhole was the last gasp of, like, what the internet pre the singularity was good, was that, like, you could just, like, dig around the Clickhole archives and, like, find something funny if you, like, had, like, 30 minutes to kill that you'd never seen before. But, Tom, also to your point, like, I feel like a lot of people in Chicago, even, like, knowing that Cards Against Humanity was, like, the bad racist place, were still really excited when it got bought, and I felt like I was just, like, sucking down crazy pills for being like, this is actually bad and sucks. Like, this is actually really bad that this happened.
I think the motivation behind people trying to think it was good is just like, well, maybe they're bad, but they probably have some good writers in the writer's room, and, well, that's better than nothing. No, it's not better than nothing. Read what they've been putting out lately.
Yeah, there was also some hope that because Cards Against Humanity has lots of money, this meant that, like, oh, Clickhole doesn't have to, like, worry about being sold or spun off or whatever because it's now in a home that is adequately, budgeted for. And that doesn't fucking matter either.
No, I mean, it's really like, and that's kind of the problem, is that like you can write like the best stuff on the internet, but like marketing it is a completely different thing. And like unless you are like a term that is stuck with me forever, unless you are literally going to subsume yourself into your personal brand and make a Patreon so that every single thing that you do is like, or like at least like a certain amount of your output is just like there to be consumed, and your social media is like on point with that, you're gonna have to deal with advertisers, and advertisers suck ass and are not fun and don't understand anything that could be fun. Even like it just sucks. Like, it sucks ass. It sucks so much ass.
Yeah, and what really sucks is that like forever ago there was a clear delineation between editorial content and advertisement. And now it's all just like one, like, samey oatmeal slop. Like, everything is paid content, basically.
I saw someone who made an observation that applies to fucking basically everything, including exactly what we're talking about. And I feel like it's going to apply to literally all parts of life at some point. And they're talking about how no person, like, under 30 answers their phone because, like, advertisers took this thing that was part of society that everyone used and was useful and good, and were like, let us squeeze a bit of money out of it. And they were like, ooh, I liked that. And then they decided to do only that until the point that the fucking platform that they were using to exploit became literally unusable because of that. And it is now no longer a part of our lives at all. It used to be a valuable thing that we did every day, talking to someone on the phone. I couldn't fucking imagine talking to someone on the phone now. I really hope that comes soon with the internet, because I hate this shit. Golly gosh, friends, we sure had a wonderful time with our guesto, Alex Borkowski, who went Guesto mode with aplomb. Alex, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you if they want to tell you that you're really good and super funny?
Probably the easiest way to do it right now is to follow me on Twitter, at RudeHunch. My current handle is Alexander Dumbass, which I don't see changing anytime soon. But I ironically, if you wanna read some comedy writing that is, dare I say it, even something to be proud of, I helped to run like a local Chicago-based satire group called the Chicago Genius Herald, and you can follow us on Facebook, and we write articles. We have like a couple coming out every week. We're always looking for contributors if that tickles anybody's fancy. So, but those are pretty much the two main places to catch old Borky, as they say.
Gross. Catching old Borky sounds like something that would happen to a sailor before he got thrown over the fucking rail. I gotta say, Chicago Genius Herald, the greatest title for any humor publication. Calling yourself a genius is the best shit in the world and is very funny. That's why we do it. Also some very funny shit, and very impressive, like, Photoshop jokes. That's like a thing that sort of Onion-alikes can't do. But Chicago Genius got some fucking real pro-looking Photoshop jokes that make me guffaw.
Our Photoshop guy is unhinged. He's one of the best in the business.
Well, thank you so much for being on our good show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Hell yeah.
So, until next time, folks, I have been Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko.
And I've been Alex, and I am an anime sicko.
Thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.